So, as we know, today's agenda, it's already shared with you guys. So, at the first place, Mr. Arnado will be giving us a presentation about uh, the dimensions of strategy in a corporate. And then we'll move to Ashish. He will be talking about our weekly study course and Jyoti. So definitely, I will allow everyone to share their screen. So it's over to Mr. Arnado to start.
Okay, thank you. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Hello, sir. Vilayat Ali. How are you, sir? Your mic is on mute.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
Hi, how are you, Villa?
I'm fine. Alhamdulillah.
Good. Mr. Arnado, if you have any problem, you will see at the bottom a green button, share screen, and you will have option to share everything on the screen, or you can select one of your open file. So I think it's better if you select on the top left bottom where it is written screen itself and then share.
Okay. Thank you, Mustafa. I'll try. Okay. I don't know how to share my screen. It's not working.
Which laptop you have? Is it Apple?
Yes.
So you are the second one, not the first. So Abir might help you. Abir, please help Mr. Arnado how to share. Your mic is mute, Abir.
So Arnold, do you see the share screen icon on the bottom of the screen?
Yes.
The green one. So before choosing choice, first you open your presentation.
Okay.
Then you share the screen. It will come to you. The presentation will be ready for visualization. You see that?
Share this. I opened my presentation already.
Okay, then go to the share screen.
Okay. Then
Did you
share.
see your presentation?
No, I haven't seen my presentation. I haven't seen.
Okay, so stop sharing. Stop sharing.
Okay.
Go back to your presentation.
Okay, it's here.
Okay, try to make it, you know, the visualized part of your screen.
Yeah, it is already.
Okay, then go back to the share screen, green button or green icon.
Okay, I have several options here. A beer. We have desktop one, whiteboard.
No. Okay, you need to see the presentation itself because there are like replica, several ones, but you see the one which has your presentation open. I know it's something very. I remember myself.
Yeah. I saw the video. I saw the video. You were asking for.
Oh my God, that's embarrassing. Okay, so
I'm feeling it right now, Abir.
yeah, I know you get palpitation a little bit, but just focus on getting the screen full with your presentation prior to sharing the screen, not after that.
Okay.
If you need to make sure that you stop sharing the screen, then refresh the screen with your presentation, then you go back to sharing the screen. These are the, stepwise.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, we don't have Apple laptops, so we are.
Yeah.
You're lucky.
I had Apple, but I've changed. Thank God. I got my ERP. I was not getting that graphics, the graphs and other things. So I changed it to the other one, Surface.
Yeah.
Microsoft.
So you are you are preparing for next Wednesday before time. That's good.
That's nice.
Oh, I cannot.
Oh my.
Now
Yes.
now it's
Yes.
shared.
No, that's my screen.
Yeah.
I was just testing it
Ashish. Okay.
because I'm using a MacBook as well,
So
Okay.
and
Ashish,
I follow the steps Abir said. It's no problem with that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I didn't.
Can you see my presentation now?
A while back, we could see it, but you didn't click the full screen choice. Can you do the same?
In trying.
Do share screen again.
No, that was my screen, Abir, which I shared.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't Arnado's.
Okay. I thought it's his.
Can I send my file to?
Yeah, you can send. I will open it. I will share. No problem.
Can I send my file to?
Yeah, send it in the group. I will
Yes.
share it. No problem.
Okay.
In the group, I think it will be like PDF, not live presentation, PowerPoint.
Even you can send even PPT. No problem.
I'm sorry, guys.
I think Ashish, if you start, and then we will go to Mr. Arnado.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mustafa. That
Yeah.
is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except I don't have very much content to share. I can share my screen.
Yeah.
This was one of the easier segments of the course. So thank you, Mustafa, for giving me what I thought was one of the easier segments.
But for us, it was difficult. You choose for us the difficult one.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and I'll wait. Just let me know when you're ready with the Arnado's. I think we can go quite quickly through this.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Great. So I actually annotated what we learned in the course. I went over some of the videos again, but what I was more interested in doing was to go over some of the comments that other participants had. I think we don't have enough time when we were doing the course the first time round to do that. So I used the concept from our data, big data, to get the definition based on what our colleagues have all said. So there were 30 responses, and we had, I think, 5 responses where they had some sort of definition copied from Wikipedia or some other articles. We had a lot of definitions where people said it's big data is unstructured data put in an organized form. We've had big data is only as useful as the decisions it allows managers to make, and so on and so forth. But this is a saying which I believe has been attributed to Benjamin Franklin, that you can't manage what you don't measure. I think a lot of the things that I've taken out of this module is, just looking at a small business as a retail shop, you would know at the end of the day what you've sold from your general ledger. So you would say, look, I've lost so much in stock, but I've made this much in cash. Hence, that's my business for the day. But today, even when people don't come and buy, people are tracking footfall, they're tracking what bought, what's returned, what's touched, what questions came up, what sizes were asked for. So there's an incredible amount of data out there. And I think the challenge really is to see how much of that data is going to be useful in order to analyze and make a decision accordingly. So I really like this quote. It's good to be able to measure everything we have, but over the course of the definition that our colleagues had helped come to, we learned some more opportunities with what value big data has for businesses. We learned to understand probabilities, I think, a bit more further in the course. So you need to really understand normal distribution and other kinds of distribution. We need to be more data literate. I think without that, there's no point. I also remember from the call we had with Dave Poritsky, there was quite a lot. And I think even the case studies got you thinking on the difference between correlation and causation. So as managers, when we are bombarded with big data, either we can spend loads of time analyzing it, or we can really know the difference between where are we looking at the data signifying correlation, or actually giving us some insights into a cause and effect relationship. I believe that the data is also a narrative that can support your hypotheses. So if you're a manager, you really need to have 3 or 4 hypotheses that you're looking for the data to support. So big data does not provide a silver bullet solution for all problems. Are there any questions? Anything else anybody wants to ask in particular about this module?
I think you should keep moving. Is there, you finish already or still it's something?
I can keep talking till you want, but I thought maybe I could share some examples from the industries that we looked at, where
that
big
will
data,
help us. Yeah.
That will be better. Yes.
Yeah, has made a palpable difference. So with airlines, it's quite interesting. I didn't know this, but if an airline is 10 minutes away from its scheduled time, the cost overruns go into hundreds of thousands. And if it's, I think, 20 minutes away from its scheduled time, earlier or later, it goes into even higher costs, maybe up to the millions for some long haul flights. In the past,
How it is? Normally all our flights are delayed. So how they are making money?
Well, at the moment, it's a bit of a sector which is beaten down quite badly. So I don't know which airline's making money at this time. But at least here, when we get on a flight now, they do advertise in a big way about a 97% or 98% on time record. So I think that's been a big thing. And I think one way they've done that is by allowing themselves more of a buffer. So if you know the flight is 2 hours, they would say it's 2 hours, 20 minutes. And if you make it in 2 hours, 10 minutes, then it's well and good because you're still on time. But what I learned about this company called Passer Wright ETA, the solution is, the company is Passer Aerospace, and the solution is Wright ETA. In the past, it was the pilots that were giving information to air traffic control about how far they were, and that gave them an expected time of arrival. Now, that usually happens in the last 20 minutes of the flight, where the captain is already going through a lot of critical checks. So you're getting feedback, you're announcing to passengers, you're checking all the vitals So the captain is distracted. You've given him more work to keep giving you that feedback for where they are. Instead, this company analyzes the data from location, so GPS data, weather data, light, and visibility data. So they get this every 4.6 seconds. Also, it gets smarter by the amount of data that they've had. So when they've had 1,000 flights to analyze, it can then give you, like with quite a good degree of confidence, um, things like how much the visibility or cloud cover would have an impact on expected time of arrival, with everything else being equal. So it's quite unique the way it's a pure data company that's given this solution, and that's made such a big difference. And I think far more vitally, it frees up the pilot. He doesn't have to keep giving that feedback for where he is, what's going on, what delays they're getting. All that is now automatically computed from thousands of different parameters. So I think this is a brilliant example of how big data allows management and decisions to proceed. So in investments, we use Bloomberg quite a bit. Bloomberg are market leaders in getting across, obviously, pricing information, and they charge for it. So you've got instruments that are exchange traded. So if you want to buy a stock, let's say, I believe you guys in the Middle East might be very familiar with Aramco's stock listing, and you want to buy Aramco's stock, and you can get information on the latest pricing, the volumes, all of that. But what Bloomberg does, it gives you a layer below. So it gives you financial analysis on the company, which is pretty good because they get that quite quickly. They can give you a composite analyst rating. So you might have Goldman Sachs, UBS, Credit Suisse, Maastricht Bank, different investment houses covering the stock analysis and what they think it's going to do. So it will give you that forecast for 12 months and say, actually, this is the blended average of 35 analysts, and this should be the 12-month forecast stock price going ahead. So again, that's quite useful. It also gives you, in percentage terms, how many analysts have rated a particular security as buy or hold or sell.
Ashish, do you have any idea? It's also part of big data, but mainly it's the banking or investment companies algorithm. When they rate a customer that he is eligible for the loans or he is not eligible for the loans, what are the parameters, or even not individual, maybe the company, what are the parameter they are giving weightage? Okay, if for example, if he has this much money in the bank, so it has this much weightage. If he has this much physical assets, so this much as. So what are those ratings that investment companies are considering to see that an applicant is a good customer for them to give loan or no?
Well, that's a good question, but I think we should direct that to Arnado. I'm not in the personal finance section, and it's quite interesting. I think some of these algorithms have transformed quite a bit, but we'll ask him because he's in that industry of auto finance, and he'll be best placed to answer that. Okay. In my case, it's more about the investments, stocks, bonds, derivatives. That's really what I can tell you about. Mm-hmm. But so much for examples. I think we can sort of carry on and talk a little bit more about any examples that you have. Maybe Abir from the medical world where people are using data.
One comment actually from my side, Ashish, one question as well, to be honest, is I have read actually lots of comments and articles saying that now in investment world, actually there's 85% of the investment is done by algorithm. It's not human anymore, actually, because especially the derivative, because it's have so much high volatility that human cannot decide actually because they are emotionally biased so much. Yeah. Is that true actually, or is it just a bubble as well?
Well, it's quite hard to assess 85% of what. And the reason why I say that is investments itself is such a vast field. The examples I gave you were for pure exchange traded securities like stocks.
Right.
But you still have a lot of over-the-counter securities. I think the over-the-counter market for FX bonds, it tends to be 9 or 10 times larger than stocks. So the
Right,
data
okay.
for that is a bit harder in terms that price discovery is still at play based on a bid and an offer, based on what quantity you're looking to buy for what. So two buyers could get different prices for the same security,
Yeah,
which
correct.
should not ideally happen in an exchange.
No.
So I think when you're looking at the statistic you mentioned for algo traders, my guess is yes, systemic strategies, because you've got a lot of passive investment strategies that have become increasingly popular. People like us may try and add alpha or add value to a portfolio by reducing its downturn, the impact of a downturn, and then trying and buying early or enhancing its returns. But there's so many ways to do that. Passive investment says when you're investing for the long term, you're really looking at compounding gains over time. You're looking at general asset price inflation. You've seen that with properties and gold and other asset classes. So if you're looking at investing things like pensions or long-term investments, you're really not served chasing alpha. You're better off actually following the market and being neutral to any of these strategies. So I think systemic strategies like that, I would not be surprised if more and more algorithms are taking those decisions. The decision really, I think that's most important, and that's through experience, is your asset allocation decision. It's how much to allocate to equities and how much to allocate to maybe safer investments and cash that has the single largest impact on the returns of your portfolio.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, there are asset allocation models today, but my guess is that they're harnessing big data and artificial intelligence more for systemic trading, where you're fed the algorithm, but not on allocation terms.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Ashish, actually, in bonds and in share market, I never invested. Actually, I have no idea about it. Just for my curiosity, I want to ask a question like a company, not a big company like Aramco, maybe a small company that is going on IPO. They are putting, let's say, 1 million shares in the market, and each share price is, let's say, $10. Their share is 1 million in the market, and let's say it's half of them are purchased in the first couple of weeks, and then the share price is going up and up, and maybe my first question, why the share price is going up in 10 days. The second question is, let's say in another 2 weeks, all 1 million share already sold, and still the market price sometimes is going up, sometimes is going down. What is at the back that is playing role the share price is going up or down?
It's very simple. When there's more buyers than sellers, the price goes up. When there's more sellers, the price goes down.
See,
There's
demand and supply is there,
Yeah.
but my
Demand,
question is
supply.
not about demand and supply. My question is, it's 1 million share already sold, finish. Now, why the price is going up? No one is selling anymore, but still the price is going up. Or even my understanding is with the share, the price is going up because of that company business. If the company is performing well, they are making a lot of money from their products, what they are manufacturing, then the price of share is going up. It is logical. But just selling and buying the shares, the price of that company is going up and down. That I can't understand actually.
I think that's a classic question. There's two approaches, and the approach you've mentioned is value investing. So an investor that says, I'm buying an asset, it could be the share of this company, and I'm buying it for its earnings potential, which is what you said. The more products they sell, the more money they make, the earnings is higher. So you use a metric that is the current price you're willing to pay on the annual earnings the company has, and its forecast earnings, its prospects for the future. So the simple way to do that is you would say, if I'm getting 5% dividend on these shares, I have to wait 20 years to recoup my capital if everything else stays equal, just on the basis of the earnings going up as they are. But because it's not an equal market, because you may have a situation where you've got further growth in the value of that company in its stock, because there's more buyers, there's more demand for their shares, or they've had, they do manipulate supply very often. You have things like rights issues and bonuses which do that. That complicates the equation a bit. But then they've got mergers and acquisitions. They've got, like in this case, for an oil and gas company, it's the underlying price of crude that has a big impact, because if the price of crude goes up, even if they sell the same number of barrels, their profitability goes up. So there's a number of factors that come in where you need to analyze a stock from fundamental as well as technical factors. But this is the old school, the Warren Buffett school of thinking, which is value investing and looking at reasonable valuations where you're not paying ridiculous amounts, right? Even if you're paying 20 times earnings, it's a reasonable valuation in this market. I mean, you've got tech stocks. You've got stocks like Tesla where you're looking at, it's impossible to compute. You're looking at more than 1,000 times valuation or 1,000 times earnings. And that's a whole different ball game. So you've got a value school of thought, but you've also got the strong momentum school of thought. Because these stocks are going up, more investors, more retail investors come in, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you've got both stories over there.
Actually, I was having a discussion with one of my friend, and his point of view was that this is a kind of gambling. It's not real. I said, how? Just give me an example. He said a company having 1 million shares and $10 each in the having IPO. One guy is buying 500,000 of the shares, and the share price is going up and up and up. And because this guy who purchased 500,000 of the share, 500,000 share in maybe 4 or 5 days, so he's actually manipulating the things. And when people are looking at the share price is going up, they also start buying it. So other half is purchased by maybe 100 people or maybe 1,000 people. And once the market price is going very high in the share market, the guy who's having major share, either he is an individual or a company, he will sell his share, and then the share price of that stock will fall down, and he will make the money. All other people will lose. So this is how it's kind of a gambling. It's not a fair thing. So I just wanted to know your point of view, because you are in the same field. How is it true? Is it happening like this, that if one company is buying major chunk of share, they can manipulate the share price, or it is not possible?
I'm sure it's possible. It's a simple answer. It is possible. Like it is possible with any commodity. You could buy and hoard food grains, you can buy and hoard gold. But coming back to data, I think when you get a service, a data feed, a pricing feed like Bloomberg, you also have access to the ownership of that company. So you can actually see who owns the underlying stocks. And at least director sales in the West, you're obliged to report within 24 hours if you're making a sale or not. So all director sales are reported. You can see it in the company's balance sheets. You can see that it's a regulatory requirement if you are an insider or a director and you're making any purchases or disposals of your company's stock. So the advantage, I think, for what data provides us is if people came with that thought, and there's no reason why you should not. You should come with this element of healthy suspicion. Could this market be manipulated? Would I be, a mug who loses out because I've gotten late? In that case, you should be looking more at the ownership structure. So you can click, maybe next time I'll try and do a demo of the Bloomberg modules to show you how you can do that. You can click through, look at the ownership. What happens with companies like this is ownership is institutional. So the top owners, maybe those who own 2% or 3%, and I can only give you European blue chip companies as an example. you will find that that's the level of ownership that big institutions like sovereign funds or the large Wall Street banks have. Very rarely do you find them holding, unless there's a private equity or a merger and take acquisition at play, that very rarely do you find them in double digits even. So their single digit holdings are considered substantial for a listed entity.
I have a small question, Ashish. In that regard, whatever you have explained now, is there any kind of affirmative regulatory regulations? Like, is it happening more in the West than in in the Middle East or the Eastern countries? So this manipulation, is it kind of protected by any global regulatory systems?
No, I'm not aware of any cross-jurisdictional regulator. So, I mean, if the company is listed in London and it does its business overseas, they would have to comply with the London Stock Exchange and then the Financial and Prudential Conduct and Regulatory Authorities, respectively.
And do you
I'm
see,
not aware of any cross-jurisdictional issues.
So if it is national regulatory protective measures or jurisdictions, do you think they are even across different countries, or they are variables?
They are definitely variable. They're definitely variable. I mean, the standard, and I think I can only talk for Dubai, which is the financial center I know in the Middle East, that they try and hold the standard that the UK has set. The UK has been a market leader in regulatory standards for Europe, other Commonwealth countries like India and Singapore, as well as the Middle East now, from Dubai especially. Where it's slightly different is the US, the SEC. It actually has extremely stringent regulations. So you have to make sure when you're onboarding a client that's a US person, it's quite hard. You've got to make sure you can't, but there's nothing that stops a US entity onboarding any other foreign clients. So I think the SEC has a different level of governance and a different sort of regulatory requirement. But I'm most familiar with the European ones, with the UK's, and I think we're at an interesting point because in the past, till the end of this year at least, if you're regulated in one European EU member state market, you can freely use that regulation and sell your services in your advisory anywhere in the region, in the European Union. What happens after the 31st of December with Brexit is still unclear.
Ashish, I have a point. Yeah. Sometime back, we had applied for some shares. There was an opportunity in our bank. They said they are coming up with some shares they are selling. When we applied, actually they allotted back. In the sense, if you say, if I had to take that example, say I had applied for 100 shares, but they only allotted 10. So how does this get regulated? Because Mustafa's answer is the one person buying half the shares. Is it on allotment or it can be opted?
No, so, and this is in India, I presume.
Yeah, it's in India. Okay.
So,
yeah.
No, it's a good question because in India, you have quotas still. So on a primary issue, when you have an IPO, they have quotas for retail investors. They'll have quotas for, institutions. They'll have quotas for overseas corporate buyers and FIIs. So, and each quota is subscribed. And in this case, I think what's happened in your case, the quota was oversubscribed. The overall issue was oversubscribed. And then within the quota also, there was an oversubscription. And that's when they make an allocation on, on a pool basis.
Correct. You are right. They allotted few and they returned back the money.
Yeah.
So I thought this way, one way of regulating. That was my assumption.
Yeah, it's true. For primary issues, for IPOs, it's far more complicated because there's so many players involved. That's why when companies are looking to raise money, they will go to a merchant bank, they'll go to an investment bank, find underwriters. They're looking at a good 4 or 5 entities, and sometimes they syndicate, 2 or 3 powerful banks to do this together.
Yes.
So they do that to create that demand in the market. They're market makers.
Actually, why I raised this point, I have very close friend. He was working in Saudi about I can say 15 or 16 years ago. I'm talking about 2000, 2001 and 2002. Okay? And he got shares from his American company. Its name is Lucent Technologies. Lucent was a telecom company in Saudi Arabia. They were providing the telecommunication services before the current national telecom company, that is Saudi Telecom, even bought. So the Lucent Technology gave some shares to their employees. Instead giving them bonuses, they gave them the shares. And these things was new to those people. And once they got the share from the company, they saw with some period of time the share value is increasing. So what they started, whatever salary they were getting, so they were buying more share, they were buying more and more. So they keep buying and investing all their money in the share market. And Lucent, it's very big company, and I think it was listed in US stock exchange somewhere, I'm not sure. In couple of days, not even in weeks or month, their share price from something like 80 or $100 reached to $2 or $3. Until today it is at the same place. So they lost a lot of money in that share business. And so this guy, he was actually explaining me that it is not something a real business, it is just a kind of gambling, and this is what happened with him.
Yeah, no, I think Lucent was bought over by Alcatel
Something like
in the
that.
early 2000s, but I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure what's happened with that.
Mm.
Look, like anything else, you can have a garden, and if you don't look after it, weeds will grow. So you might again say gardening is not a real business because you have undergrowth, and you have your entire hard work gets destroyed because you've just not looked after it. So maybe if you have other friends like that and they need some advice, you can give them my number and we'll work out a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, I think let's carry on.
Yeah.
The 4 V's of big data.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is just semantics. They've probably got a nice mnemonic. They've got 4 V's. Volume. There's a lot more data on the internet today than there ever was before. So that means there's more data to capture. And that was the example we looked at in the retail shop. We saw the Zara case study later on in the course, which also showed the kind of data companies are tracking now in terms of volume. What's also interesting for me, and again, Abir, this might be something you can shed some light on, that now data is not just what we have in an Excel sheet or on a database. Data can include pictures, it can include voice. So does that make a difference when you're looking at medical information?
Okay, thank you. That's a good question indeed. And I think Mustafa wanted me to prepare something for the medical perspective in our big data and artificial intelligence. Now, this is something that we have to differentiate between the traditional data, because it has been very crucial vocal areas or pivotal area in medical field, and the upcoming evolving transformational focus, which is, I think it's going to artificial intelligence via the big data. Now, there are certain domains they are working on. Those domains which are medical domains in general, I would focus upon the quality metrics, where they try to get the data in relation to the KPIs. They do have those data, and until now, there is no established, there are kind of trials, but no well-established science about those areas. It's just undergoing the evolution system. From my specialty, which is radiology perspective, the imaging is a kind of peculiar situation. And I think they are doing, kind of speedy achievements in this regard, because they are kind of putting all of those images in millions, okay? Now, the images, they are kind of different in their complexities. We have something basic like X-rays and very sophisticated like magnetic resonance imaging, if you heard about MRIs. So the images in those regards are quite different in terms of their, pixel, voxel sophistication, and all of that is going to be entered within the data regarding the images. Now, they already have done some kind of achievement where Those images have been dealt with and kind of programming those big data, and it helps in the diagnosis where whatever have been like my daughter have a high level explanation of Mayada, the input and the output. So the input was like the expertise diagnosis in such data, and the output is the machine learning and how the machine can diagnose itself. Now this is kind of risky actually, and we still are not only concerned because we might lose our jobs as radiologists. It's the patient, him or herself, might be not the typical appearance, and it's still undergoing, a lot of evolutionary trials and experimentations.
But Abir, if we look at these things, you raise very good points, especially the X-rays and MRIs. We are getting it from X-rays. A doctor is looking at the X-ray and he has some, knowledge about what to look and what to find, and then what to perceive from the X-ray. Is there a problem or there is not a problem? End of the day, doctor is looking from his eyes of his mind, from where he is diagnosing, he is finding out that what is the problem with this patient. And same thing, I'm sure that it can be done by the machines. And when it comes to MRI, we are getting a lot of, I don't know exactly what is MRI, but I'm looking at once there is any test, there is a report, and in the report there are some numbers. It is this ratio is high, this ratio is low, and then doctor is understanding, okay, if this ratio is high, so this is the problem, this ratio is low, so this is the problem. So I think all those things, the data can be taken from those pictures, from those, whatever it is available in form of X-rays or MI reports.
Actually, human beings are very complex, and no human being is like the other. And we as radiologists, no matter how experts we are in certain subspecialized levels, we still have our own variations. We run our business in a way that we have a peer review, even for the things that we are very experts in, because we always see it in a different way. This is the challenge, I think, that is going to face the machine learning, but they are, kind of determined in making it happening. We all are concerned, and as you said, Mustafa, that those interpretation, which are diagnostics actually, depends on the perception. There is a high level of subjectivity, definitely. But the idea is to minimize this subjectivity, even by the data science, by the random trials, for instance, and these type of things. They all are incorporated into such, domain in order to bring the best of it. But I don't think we have reached to the satisfactory level yet.
I mean, just one comment from my side, actually. What I see as data science or machine learning actually is not to replace any, I would say, expertise. Actually, it's more about actually, I think, reducing or making it faster. Instead of actually looking at 100 X-ray, actually, if I can only look at 20 of them, which has a problem, right? Where 80 actually is very trivial, where machine can say actually that there is no big issue, then actually I reduce my work, isn't it? I mean, but machine cannot decide that there is something goes wrong or not wrong. Actually, it can only classify that actually this is where most of the things may be okay, but this is where I have a doubt, and that's where expert comes and look at it and say, okay, yeah, there is seriously something wrong or not wrong there.
So Jyoti, thank you for this interjection. Actually, whether it's fortunately or unfortunately, we already are dealing with that. There are softwares that are pinpointing where is the abnormality. And
correct, yeah.
depending on certain factors, they are mentioning for us, those abnormalities can be interpreted. But there is a lot of gap in terms of positive or negative predictive values. Nonetheless, we need to caution that in every phase, we encounter different signs, different word actually. So I think we still have this kind of, it might be a threat that the machine will replace the human. Sometimes the machine becomes more accurate than a human, sometimes, but we should not depend on it. So at this phase, I think I would like to have it like a supportive you know, when it comes to quality control, for instance. So
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
I think this is where we need to focus, not to machinize our, you know, day-to-day style of living.
Work. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Agree.
Okay, so probably that brings us also to variety of data, which we've covered through that example. We have velocity and veracity as the other two V's. So just want to check from Arnado, Rehan, Subrat, if you have any questions at this stage.
I'm good. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So hi guys. This is Subrat here. So unfortunately, oh sorry, there's someone on the call.
Yeah, Subrat, go ahead, please. You can ask.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Sorry, I don't have my camera on. I'm in a public place. Just I spent the past 3 years before I came to Dubai. I spent in China, and I was at the headquarters of our company, My Dear Group. So we also we acquired a business called KUKA, which is a German robotics business, and the company I work for is the actually the largest home appliance manufacturer in the world. So there's a lot of application of big data, whether it's on industrial 4.0 or it's on robotics or product evolution, or defining the product roadmaps or IoT. So quite a bit of use cases we've seen on and witnessed, even though I'm not an expert in the area. But like for instance, we had this conversation about how big data or AI could be more facilitative at this stage. Perhaps it's an evolutionary phase. So what we were able to do is I witnessed a factory which is an air conditioning manufacturing plant in China for our company. It was a very painful physical example of laying off 20,000 people and replacing the line labors with 700 robots, right? So I mean, the supervisory function is it's conducted by engineers, but the entire line is now robotic, and obviously the precision is quite high. Even if there was a 0.5 micron of scratch on a device, the robotics capability is able to identify those things, put it on a rejection on the line. So those kind of extreme capabilities, very physical capabilities driven by robotics as well as big data. So what we were also able to see is there's in China at least, there is extreme use of end-to-end through IoT. So you're able to actually link your users rather than consumers. So so a normal terminology in our industry used to be consumer centric, but our company more or less, migrated from that stage and said, we're not going to be consumer centric, but we are going to be user oriented, which means, when the transaction has taken place and the consumer takes the appliance home, and when he starts using it, that's the time when you're connected with them through IoT, and you're able to get in your production line, what should be the, what are the kind of, what is the user environment? How do they use the product? It's just like a Tesla, right? Which generates at the moment it moves out of the showroom, you're able to see, how the car is moving, how is it performing, what are the things that the user is using more, where are the faults, and that kind of data generation. And then once you're connected, you are obviously and a lot of natural language processing happening through smart homes. So those kind of that kind of example of real use of such data was very evident. And so now it's interesting to know how things really happened under the surface when I started this program. Yeah. So yeah, just for an overview of my experience in the past 3-4 years in China. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that also ties in very nicely with the precision information from robotics and the analysis that highlights the veracity of data, um, which I think came across in our discussion of the 4 Vs, that is the group discussion we had afterwards, as probably one of the more important Vs. But I think the decision for us now is how do we analyze and use big data to be better managers ourselves. So with that open-ended question, I'd like to pass the floor back to Mustafa.
Just Ashish, Rehan here, just to thank you for the examples. It was very insightful and very helpful for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Rehan.
Sure, it was great. Yeah, Ashish, we learned a lot.
Thank you, Ashish. And I think with the continuation of our course study, let's first go to Jyoti and then we'll go back to the other subject that we have with Mr. Arnado. So Jyoti, please go ahead.
I'll share my screen now. So let's
Please.
see if it works. Can you all see my screen now?
Yeah, perfect.
You don't,
Okay.
you don't have maps, right?
Right. Okay, I'm not sure how much time I have got actually, but let's see if what I can cover. So outline of my presentation actually is just to introduce, which I think Ashish did already quite a lot. And then I'll go to challenges, what we have actually and discussed during the course, but related to big data. And I just want to touch base actually on, I mean, of course, we are all learning actually this to make decision and how actually this big data can help actually. So on few lines on that. And then assignment, some comment on the week 3 assignment actually we have. So big data introduction itself. So, I mean, this is the picture I've got actually here is from Wikipedia. As Ashish was saying, we all were looking at there to understand the big data. And what we can see actually is, I mean, what I found very interesting is that how we started recording data actually. And of course, all of us actually are from the age actually where we had a video cassette and audio cassette, where we were recording data actually as analog, not as a digital. And suddenly actually when we had a digital camera introduced, and then we had, of course, mobile phone with camera on it, where it doesn't cost you to take a picture anymore. So it's the digital data set we started recording actually just exploded completely. And now we have got actually what we call as one of the V's for big data is volume. Huge amount of data actually which we record at the moment. Yeah. And there was some comment actually during the course from the professor that now for every 2 days actually we record as much as data as we have recorded until 2003 actually, which itself speaks the volume actually what amount of data we are recording nowadays. Also, he also pointed actually, which I also quite get mesmerized with actually, that weather forecasting, where we were not as good before in 80s, and now we are quite good in that because of the data. Again, it's the big data which made it possible. In 1980, we were recording only probably 1,200 observation point, whereas now we are recording 250 billion. You can see amount of scale actually we have escalated to that. Yeah. Another thing actually also what that Wikipedia page was having is this out of these 4 V's we talked about during the course, the 3 V's actually how it has evolved. And you can see actually that the volume actually was started from megabytes and now in probably is in exabytes range, beyond petabytes really. Then also variety actually, before when we talked about data actually, even in IT world, we were talking about database, table, all that of kind of terminology. And suddenly big data actually came where we had now any type of data, which means you can also store photo, text, audio, photo, PDF, documents, any type of data which is available. Actually, you can actually record and analyze. And that I think is one of the biggest difference between I think, ordinary data and the big data. I think that the variety has brought actually, and it also brought itself challenge how you're going to store it, because not anymore structured. It doesn't have one type of data anymore. One of the thing also professor actually asked us to think about that in our industry, what kind of data we record. And maybe I would like to comment on that actually, because the industry I come from is oil and gas, and where actually we normally analyze quite a lot seismic data, which is again one type of data, but we have been using petabytes of data actually since last maybe 20-30 years, because when you record a seismic data, actually it's a huge amount of data. And in order to actually analyze that, actually you need a huge amount of compute and storage capacity. So a company like where I work actually for, they have their own personal cloud, if you like, even if we didn't call it cloud, but it is like a cloud kind of infrastructure and facility you need actually to, in order to actually basically use these big data to store whatever challenges it brings actually in terms of storing, analyzing. But what was different between big data and our data is the structure. Our data is only one type. It's a seismic data, so we know what it looks like. It was not. It was still not that challenging in terms of storing and using, because we knew how it looks like. Whereas actually now, when we talk about big data, we're talking about so many type of variety of data set that it definitely brings itself a challenge, how to store them, how to analyze them to get a business insight. So that brings me to the next topic actually here is the challenges. As I think we have also discussed during the course, is that just having data doesn't mean anything. Actually, it doesn't give you anything useful. So just having data set doesn't mean actually you have got something which it can be used for a business decision or for any purpose really. So you need to think about actually, is this data actually really, first of all, because of so many legality and of course confidentiality thing, that is the data compliant? Are you storing something actually which is you should store or not really? Then second thing you should think about, is this data really obsolete or trivial? Is it really going to give you any information about your business? Is it something you're recording many times? Is it redundant? Actually, have you already received this data earlier? You don't have to store anymore, because all what you make a decision, actually it will cost you money. Storing data actually definitely cost money, right? So it's really, as a business leader, actually you have to decide whether what about of data actually you would like to store, because of course storing is a cost. But also you should think about that this data can give you a great insight about your business. Even if you think actually that this data is not useful right now, it might become useful or relevant in future. So that's something we have to keep in mind when you try to make a balance, whether we want to store this much of data costing this much money versus of course price versus the usefulness basically about it. Yeah. One thing keep in mind actually, statistically, again from the course on professor, what he quoted, that actually that 14% of the only data we store is really the business critical. So even if we are recording so much of data, actually it's not all useful. I mean, 14% doesn't sound a lot. However, 14% of exabyte still is a big data. So it's still quite huge, but you have to think about actually how much and what you should record. Sometimes it's also possible, actually, I mean, you are recording some data which might not be useful for your current business, but you would like to expand and you want to go to a certain area, and there this data become actually relevant as well. So you need to be clear about your vision, where you're going with your company, and what you really want to achieve as a company in terms of vision and your mission. Yeah. That's one thing actually. So once you have decided that, okay, I will retain this data, actually, then there are other challenges. As I mentioned actually already about compliance, that are we storing this correctly? I mean, do we have all the enough permission or legality that we should be able to store this data set actually without having into a legal issues. Also, not only that, actually, when you are recording data, you also give some protection to the user you're recording data of, that This data is secured with you and you will going to only use for your business purpose, whatever is the reason. You have to make sure that actually this data is protected, it's secured, it's not getting to be leaked by someone else, or somebody take this data and use for something which is not meant to be. Yeah. So that's a big challenge actually as a business leader, that if you are decided to store this data, you have to think about how to store it so that it is secured enough, and also you fulfill all your legality. So you have get the right permission about the data set. Yeah. Okay, also another thing actually you need to think about that actually, okay, I have recorded the data, I have stored the data. Is it really accessible to the people actually who can use this data to give you insight? And what I mean actually about is, do you have right infrastructure? Do you have right way of storing so that whenever you want certain amount of data, you can access by doing this query, create? And why it is a challenging? Because as I say, it's a variety, because there's so much amount of different type of data set that you have to think about all different type you can receive. It's not structured. You can't define like we used to define a database with certain limited amount of columns, that this is what I'm going to get anyway, right? Currently, actually, you can get so many different type of data set from so many different type of sources that you have to make sure actually that you have build your infrastructure to record and then make it accessible to the right people. And then at the end, of course, you need to think about what business insight you can get from it. And by that, I mean, actually, of course, when you store this data, you already thought that this data might be useful for you. But then now you have to think about actually what problem you're trying to solve. What is the right question you need to ask to the person who can give you insight from the data you have recorded. And it's very important to make that problem statement so that actually you can get the right answer and using the right data set, basically. Yeah. So any questions so far, actually, or maybe I can move on and yes, go ahead, Abir. Yeah.
Very nice highlight, and I'm having one point that I need to reflect on, like in a out loud. When we are talking about clean data, do we talk about clean data in terms of this data is relevant to the business function or where we want to work on, or is it non-credible data if it is not clean? Because as you highlighted and you made me think, actually, it was like a food for thought. Some data, if they are available as crude data, they might be utilized at different time or by different people or by different business function in a different way. So I think judging it upfront might, indicate losing some data, okay, that can help in a different domain. And we know now that even the governments are being stronger by the data they are keeping. So I don't know. I'm just reflecting on whatever you triggered or you provoked thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has element of both. I would say that first of all, actually, I mean, what do we mean by clean data? It's not going to be completely, let's say, clear unless you know what problem you're trying to solve. So if you have a problem statement, then you start to think about actually, okay, what are the data I have available? Is it really clean? Is it the parameter I am looking for? Have we recorded that parameter everywhere or not? Or we have got this parameter wrongly recorded because we never thought about that before, right? So yeah, I mean, when you're deciding to keep the data, you're only thinking about, is this data going to be relevant later? Actually, not thinking about whether it's still usable or not. I think once you make your problem statement, then you start thinking about whether the data you recorded is usable or not, right? And what I know actually is, again, from data science perspective, if somebody is doing a project on data science, 90% of their work actually is to clean the data. So they definitely expect that data is not clean. What they know actually is that there's ample amount of data which I can use and may be useful, but probably it's not in the format or in the shape which I can use straight away. So they spent a lot of time actually cleaning it. And really the last 10-15% actually, which is really the machine learning part, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay. So if I move on, so then next actually is really the decision. I mean, all this we are doing actually is to make a right decision. I mean, I should not say right, actually, the appropriate decision, because nobody knows if they are making right or wrong decision at the end, unless they know the result, actually. So we have got all the information available at the point of making decision, and then we make a decision which we think appropriate at that time. And most important part, actually, we should think is that data does not make a decision. I mean, it's only give you some information, and if you use this data to do some analysis, that can support your decision, but it does not again make a decision. So neither data make a decision nor the data analysis make a decision. It's still we actually as a human who are using this data to understand what is there behind it, what this data is telling us, who will make the decision at the end. And I mean, I was just wanted to highlight actually one of the aspect in the course we discussed about is that even if we have trained let's say very effective artificial intelligence, it only knows what we have taught him. It can't really actually do anything else, whatever outside of whatever we have told him. And one of the greatest example they gave is about AlphaGo, who was taught actually to play the game, which is Go, very, very popular game. And he was playing it very well. And some of the move actually he made was very difficult to understand for even human being in that sense. But if you ask that AI to play a chess, he can't. Even if he's the most intelligent artificial intelligence, he can't play chess because he has not been trained for that. So your machine learning is as good as actually you have provided data to it. It's as good as actually you have trained it for. It's not anything more than that. So at the end, actually, it's up to us actually how we want to use our data. How do we want to train these AIs to work for us actually in that sense. Yeah.
Jyoti, I have a question.
Yes. Yeah.
What is the difference between a human and a machine? Being a human, I cannot play maybe soccer. I never played and I don't know even how to play it. But I can play cricket.
Correct.
And if you teach someone how to play cricket, he will play cricket. And if you will not teach someone how to play soccer, he will not be able to play soccer. It's same thing applicable on human as well. It's not only for the machine.
Yeah, that's
for example,
right. But
this example AlphaGo you are talking about, you actually teach him how to play Go. So this machine is playing Go. So if you want him to play another game, okay, teach him how to play the other game. It will play.
Yeah. So, but what is difference? I would say actually is that as a human, actually, you are doing more than one thing. So you can learn all of them actually as being one human, right? But as one AI, they can only learn one thing. So you can actually make another chess expert, but that'll be a different AI.
I think, Jyoti, in this example of AlphaGo, if I remember, the program taught itself as it went along. So you first had an input that the humans had given it. And the reason I think this was that move 37 that they talk about, they found that in over 3,000 games that AlphaGo saw, it had not seen that move done before in that situation.
That's
so
right.
In this case, the reason why it's machine learning is where you now allow that machine, the program, to keep
get
increasing
better.
based on what it already knows.
Correct.
So I think that was the difference with this AlphaGo example that made it a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, once you have done a machine learning, actually, it's not the end of it actually, because now you start using it actually, and by using it also you start keep training it, make it more accurate, make it more better as it actually start to predict as well. But what I was trying to make a point actually that, I mean, if that machine is only as good as playing a Go at that, because it has been trained that way. You cannot actually take that Go AI and ask him to play chess. You have to provide some information about the chess beforehand. It's also good, same for human actually as well. So if I never played chess, I can't actually go and play as well. But I also will learn same way as a machine will learn. But I can learn even I know actually other games as well, right? However, actually that will be a separate AI, because there will be one AI for Go, one AI for chess. You can't make same AI do the same 2 or 3 things actually, if you like, right?
Why we cannot? I think AI can be more than hundreds of games you can teach him. It depends on what infrastructure you are giving him, how big infrastructure it has with that tool. If it has very big data set, it has very big hardware infrastructure like my mobile. I can install any software and all the games that is installed on my mobile, you can play. So I
Correct.
don't
Yeah.
think so with one AI you cannot do any other thing. Yeah, it is one
Yeah, I mean,
functionality I think can be something like that.
you're right, actually. I mean, again, if you think about as a robot, yes, in that robot, you can put many programs, right? And, but it's still a separate programs. I was talking about more like a program, like one program actually is an AI, which can only design to do one thing. And then you need to, I mean, in the same robot, you can put more than one program as well. Like as a human, yeah, you're right. I mean, when we are learning many things, actually, we are having programming for that particular things, right? So yeah, if you build another robot actually which acts like a human, you can have many programs in that robot, but you still need many programs, right? You cannot have one program and you can say that, okay, I have trained this for Go and I can now same program can do chess as well.
Okay, Jyoti, I
That's
would
not
like to
possible.
take
Yeah.
your opinion
Mhm.
regarding what Elon Musk have said, that sometimes the artificial intelligence are going to be more smart than those intelligent scientists who have created them. So
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I
Yeah. I mean,
think they are talking about the algorithms with self predictability and then different prescriptions, even different than whatever input have been put. So I think there is kind of a risk that the outcome is sometimes uncontrolled, and this is the concern, the future concern of the entire
true.
AI.
I mean, I agree. I mean, there was actually, in fact, there was a program where they were trying to train a robot like we train our child. That they actually try to make them learn everything we try to make learn our child actually, how to walk, how to look around. They just left that robot actually to explore like our child learn actually in our environment, just exploring things around. And I mean,
Yes,
it has been a successful to a certain extent, but I think we are still very far from it, let's say. So when we are talking about machine learning AI at the moment, actually, it's really, we are talking about a program which is trained to do a certain thing.
I hope so.
Not, yeah, at the moment. I mean, I'm saying just, yeah,
Thank
where we are at the moment. Yeah.
My point still, they are now far ahead than us. Yeah, we are creating them, but their capacity is more than our capacity.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe possible, Mustafa. Yes. I mean, let's see where we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then actually, I just wanted to highlight actually as well again that if you don't use the data correctly, then also that can lead to confusion or a bad decision. If it's not used correctly, for example. And that's why it's very important to frame the problem correctly and then use the data also very correct way, let's say. And again, I will just phrase the quote again. Maybe, yeah, many of you don't agree, but don't let data control you. Rather use it effectively to make decision without any bias. And with that, actually, I
Totally
wanted
agree
to,
with it.
with that, actually, I wanted to go back to our first assignment, which was Carter example. I know we have already discussed this actually during one week one, but I just wanted to thought, okay, I mean, this is again another example where data was used actually very differently by two different people. And what they were looking at actually, where based on which they asked us to make a decision is they were looking at actually the temperature of the air temperature during the race of all the race where they had a failure. Yeah. And what we can see actually with this data is that, okay, I mean, you had same number of failure when it was low temperature as on the high temperature. And then it's not very easy to make a decision anymore because you don't know actually whether a low temperature is a problem, even if your technical guy is saying that actually. However, this data actually was used by a person who was a very risk taker, the racer itself actually, and he was making kind of biased approach, trying to justify his decision by looking at data this way exactly. And then actually what the decision leader actually said actually that, oh, can I see a data set of all the successful race and what was the temperature at that time? And then you see, look at this data and see, oh, I don't have any success rate below 65 degree Fahrenheit actually. And that tells you, oh, okay, that means actually at this temperature, I'm 100% possibility that it will fail. And that's now much easier to make a decision actually, because now you have the clear picture when you looked at actually all the data without any bias. Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's why I wanted to bring, because I mean data is there actually, but it's also how we are going to use it for what is the right statement actually you want to make. I mean, here the statement of course was to go to the whether to go to the race or not, rather than actually looking at what temperature my car fell, right? First data was only telling you actually at what temperature your car was filling. You were looking at actually the reason behind the car failure, whereas actually what you wanted to make a decision is whether you want to do this race or not. And when you look at actually everything in totality, then you can decide very easily. No, I mean lower temperature definitely is 100% failure. There's no brainer there actually that I should not go for this race. Yeah. And then this I have the last slide actually here is about the week 3 assignment. The first one actually was about the Google Cloud API. I mean, they ask us actually to explore the demo and see if what it does, how it can identify things on the image. So what Google Cloud Vision does actually, that if you provide an image, it can identify the objects inside actually that image. Is there a people? Is there a building? It's also interestingly identify any text written on the image. And I've tried actually for many images, actually, it can identify any language as well. So it's not only that it try to look for text in English actually, but any language actually it can identify very easily. Also, actually, what I noticed that actually if I had a person picture in the image, they also try to detect actually what is the expression on the face. Is it actually happy mood, or is it upset, or things like that? Actually, again, that's quite starking in a way actually, that it can even detect that. And of course all this is possible only because of the availability of big data. And when I say that actually is what I was trying to say, that when we all had a mobile phone with a camera in it, we have recorded an enormous amount of images, and which actually definitely help them to train the data, or train the machine learning to detect all that things in the image. Of course, there are many actually now companies actually, of course, using as well the image processing to do. For example, one of the biggest is one of the thing I come to my mind immediately is the parking. For example, they of course detect, look at the image, and you don't have to really scan or print a receipt. Actually, they just scan your number plate and say, oh, you have paid or not. Are you allowed to go outside or not? And that's kind of where the velocity we come into picture actually with the big data. And I'm not sure actually if anybody are into Netflix, but if you are, I mean, I would say suggest actually look at the series called Connected. It is really quite educational in a way. I mean, it's a documentary, and each episode actually talks about one topic. And the first topic is about the surveillance, and they really talk about how this like Google company like Google actually has used all the images actually to train their AI uh, uh, using, I mean, that's a big data capability. And they were also talking about, for example, even on animal farming, they were looking at the images of actually each animal to see which animal is happy, which animal is not happy, and that detect actually if they have something to do with their health actually, and they look after their that particular animal more than the others. It was quite interesting actually. So I mean, yeah, there's lots of work actually going on, which was only enabled because of the big data available in a way. And there was actually another assignment or correlation game actually they asked us to play with, where they put some pictures and then you have to guess whether it's what kind of correlation we think it might be with a number. So whether it's positively correlated or negatively correlated, depending on the uh, trend between the two variable. I mean, of course, it's important actually as well in a way that if you're doing any data analysis, the first step actually, as I think Professor said, is descriptive analysis. Do you want to see actually that what you want to predict, is it correlated with which parameter? And by just plotting them together, actually, you can get an idea. that which parameter actually affects most your output actually. If it's strongly correlated, of course, it has a more bigger impact than what is not strongly correlated. Yeah, that's what I have actually here. If anybody has any more question.
Thank you, Jyoti. I think we have very
Thank
promising
you.
subject that, and we have very little time.
Yeah, that's true actually.
Yeah, what we will give them full time to Mr. Arnado.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
it's
sure.
up to him.
Yeah.
Mr. Arnado, you want me to share the screen or you would be able to do it?
No, Stafa, please do it. Thank you.
Shall I do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
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 Thank you. Okay. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Good evening once again from Manila. I'm Du Arnado. I would be here to share with all of you the nature. Our business is motorcycle financing, and of course, just for you to have an idea how our country looks like, I'm here to share with you the map of our country, Philippines. And the Philippines has three major islands. We have Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And as I mentioned a while ago, that we are so full of islands. In fact, we have more than 7,000 islands across the country. That is why it is really very challenging for a business like our business to be present in most of these big islands, having technology as one of the challenges for us to be able to connect to our customers. Okay, I shared with some of you that all over the Philippines, my company is having 300 branches. Okay, so Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, 300 branches. Mustafa, please proceed to slide number 4.
This one?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
300 branches, and our business is motorcycle financing. We lend motorcycle to mostly who belongs to the base of the pyramid, right? Those families that do not have access to cars, but instead their net disposable income would qualify for a motorcycle loan. So that is our business, and I have been in this business for the past 23 years, and we have about 1 million customers all over the Philippines. And in running the business, why is it important? Why is it? I seem to be interested in sharing the dimensions of corporate strategies, because in one of the videos that I watched, one of our classmates raised the extent of application of strategies or practical applications of strategies in the respective businesses. So my take on that is I'm here to share with all of you, taking into consideration the uniqueness of our country, especially geographically speaking. So we have been using business frameworks for us to be guided in as far as our strategies are concerned. But of course, we have to take on first the limits of these strategies, as this was also brought by one of the participants as to the limits of the strategy. So our company has been using this in terms of analyzing which of the dimensions that we'll be using for us to make sure that we will be able to positively bring in the numbers. So these are the limits. We have to take into consideration the industry threats and opportunities, and we match it with our internal capabilities also. We have these broader societal expectations. And of course, even if we have the most profound strategies, but if our president doesn't want to approve because it doesn't conform with his personal values, we cannot just proceed with the execution of these strategies. Okay? If you have questions, I will now proceed with the dimensions of these corporate strategies.
Please proceed.
Please, slide number 5, Mustafa.
Yeah.
In the motorcycle financing business in the Philippines, we have to be very certain as to which of the 13 dimensions as discussed elaborately by Michael Porter in terms of crafting our strategies for us to make sure that we will be able to deliver company's objectives. And we start with specialization. We actually carry 4 major brands. We have Honda, Suzuki, Kawasaki, and Yamaha. And of course, we have an additional brand coming from India, the Bajaj, and that is selling very well here in the Philippines. And our maximum term that we extend to our customers is 36 months with at least a monthly amortization of about um, 50 US dollars. So that is the monthly amortization for 36 months. So for area of specialization, we make sure as to, we have several models in motorcycles in the Philippines. We have about 30 models coming from the 4 major brands, but we have to be very careful using our thinking, our system as to which model does a company should focus on in terms of sales and in terms of collection efficiency. So we're very careful with that one. We would not just sell a particular model with high demand, but collection efficiency is very low because we earn practically from collecting activities, not on the selling activities, as 95% of our sales is on installment. Brand identification are very massive in terms of our advertisements because we just don't want to compete with our major competitors using price as the main variable. We have to create an identification such a way that price is not adversely affected, or else it can easily be eroded, especially the market is really very price sensitive. The dimension of push versus pull, this refers to the focus of the company as to which of the displacements of the engines as against the target market that we are catering. Channel selection, taking into consideration that we have about 7,000 islands, we have reinvented also our business model in such a way that we will not expand through our our own branches, our own channel. Instead, it is partnered with local businessmen for us to have cost savings in terms of rental and in terms of manpower as well. Because if it is going to be shouldered and handled by the company, the fixed cost of the company will really be a big consideration for our profitability. For our product quality, this dimension is also very critical for the success of a business because of the fact that this reflects in as far as how well the company in terms of equally important activities which are retailing and financing. So in 3 major islands in the Philippines, the company has been putting up flagship stores for us to be able to pull up the image also of our company. Technological leadership. As I also shared in the past that this area is definitely one of the things that we really have to improve on, as we unfortunately did not see, while nobody expected this pandemic to happen, we were not ready for the online payment options for our customers. So when the lockdown were still when the lockdown was still enforced. Imagine you have 1 million customers all over the Philippines, and they cannot just pay to any of your branch because all of your branches were closed and you don't have payment options. Unfortunately, this is definitely one of the things that our company had addressed already, though it is really very expensive on our part to have addressed this during this pandemic. On the vertical integration, this is also a dimension that really made the company immensely successful prior to the pandemic, of course, because we have our own logistics companies that will cater our deliveries from one area to another area just for us to beat lead time. On cost position, because interest rate really matters, in as far as sourcing of our funding is concerned, uh, our my friend from Dubai mentioned the one into investment, that yes, we have this syndicated loan with our banks for us to have the leverage to get lower interest rates. And we have this service, all our stores have service shop to make sure that our engagement with our customers is protected, just for us to be assured that for the entire term of their loan, our customers will have the engagement with our branches for them to pay in the absence of our online payment platform. Relationship with our parent company, well, it doesn't matter in our company because this is a local company, and this dimension is crucial for an international company operating in the Philippines, okay, as it has to comply with the regulations in our country without also affecting the objectives of the business. So these are the dimensions that our company has been using for us to craft our strategies just for this company to be as competitive and to be able still to deliver what the company aims to achieve, not only in 2020, but as it moves ahead. You have questions?
Can I stop sharing now? I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my first question is basically just consider that I'm one of your customers, and I apply to get the, let's say, Honda. I want Honda heavy bike. So I submit my application to your company. What your company is going to do with my application? Step one, two, three, four. When they will say yes, you qualify to get the motorcycle, or they will say no, your application is being rejected. And if it is
Okay.
rejected, what would be the reason? If it is accepted, based on which criteria you are accepting it?
Okay. To answer your question, Mustafa, we have this system for credit um, application evaluation, and it is processed. This is a system that really um, addresses the biases of our credit investigators. So initially, the application will have to be filled out in our branch via computer. All your information will be encoded in terms of your income, in terms of your character, in terms, and once it's uploaded, you will you will be notified as to whether or not your application is approved or not within 45 minutes. Once the application is approved, the processing of the application until you will drive your motorcycle to your home will take another an hour. Okay, that's the process, current process.
I agree, but my question is, what is that process that will accept my application or reject? What are the parameters? What are those
Okay,
questions that you built in the computer program?
we have three sets of credit, Mustafa, in our credit process, first we have to establish the character of the person. Second, the condition of the person, the person himself, and the condition of the area where the person lives. And third is the capacity of the person in terms of money, in terms of your financial capacity. These are the three parameters that our credit process is interested in.
Okay, again, maybe I'm not able to understand your answer. I am just consider that I am Filipino and I'm living in Manila. Okay,
Okay.
and I'm going website of your company and I'm applying it. I'm putting my national ID number, whatever it is. How it will be assessed that how much money I have, what is my character, um, what are those things that will be considered
Uh,
when my
you have
application
to
is
submit.
being assessed.
You have to submit for your proof for your income. You have to submit proof of income, Mustafa.
Mhm.
For your condition address, you have to submit your billing address. For your um, character, you have to have character reference, and call. We will verify your data based on the information that you provide us with.
No, how, you will, for example, I am putting my reference, Mr. Valayat Ali, who is sitting here, and you consider he is also Filipino. He is also in Manila. I am putting his reference. Valayat Ali is my reference. He knows me. And my billing reference is my street number, this house number 123. Okay.
Okay.
Now you have 5 minutes or 6 minutes as per your program to judge me. I'm right guy to be application accepted or rejected. How? Will you call to Mr. Valayat Ali, someone from your company manually and ask about me and Mr. Valayat Ali mobile is switched off? He is not even attending the phone. What will be the procedure?
I don't understand your question, Mustafa.
See, let me explain myself again.
Okay.
You said your application will be assessed within 10 minutes. I'm right. In that application, you are
Yes.
asking me about my
Yeah.
let's say salary
Income.
certificate.
No, first is income proof. How much are you
Yeah,
earning?
income proof. It is just a
Yes.
paper. It is just
Address.
a paper that I got from my company or I develop myself. If I am a good programmer or designer, I can make one nice certificate of income. Okay, this is my company issued certificate for my income. I will upload this one. And as a reference, I have given one guy who is in also Manila, his number. He is the guy, and this is his national ID. He knows me well. And as a address, the billing address, I have given the road number this, house number this. Now my application is in your system. How you will assess? Someone from your company
Yeah.
will look at the
Someone
data.
from our someone from our company will verify your address, Mustafa. Will be in that area to check as to whether or not you fabricate your address. We can check.
Okay.
You
How
fabricate your
how in
employment.
10 minutes? How?
No, that's 45 minutes. 45
45.
minutes. Yes, that's 45 minutes.
Okay, you can check the address, but the reference that I have given you, his mobile is switched off. He is not available.
Income, we can check your income right away. Reference, your character reference, we can just check in your area. We have this barangay level, right? We can just check because we have a lot of branches all over the Philippines. We have strategic areas and we have assigned personnel there to check as to you fabricate your information. That is why 45 minutes is the standard time for us to verify as to whether or not an applicant is lying or fabricating. Then once everything is verified, that is, we will give you a notification that you're approved or not.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mr. Vlad, I think you were having one question.
Yeah, I was just asking to, wondering, the motorcycle, what you're talking about, will it be in your company's name or it will be transferred to the person who is taking, basically hypothecated?
What's that?
The asset, the motorcycle, will it be transferred to the person who is
No,
taking you, or it will
no,
be still
no,
in the company's?
no. It will not be transferred unless it's fully paid.
Okay, it will be in your
That's
company's name. It's hypothecated to your company.
yes.
Hypothecated. Okay,
That's
okay.
that's encumbered. Yes.
Okay, okay. So, but he'll be start using from the day one, but the asset will be in your name.
Yes. Still at on the company's name.
Same as installment concept that we have everywhere in the world. But the thing is that is, giving me a little bit surprise is 45 minutes
No,
because
no, that was
yeah,
really,
yeah,
yeah,
because we are applying here, let's say in Saudi for the Toyota. So it's not very easy that they will accept application in few minutes or even 1 hour. They will be taking lot of information and ensuring all those things, bring this document, bring that document. So it's basically the guy who's sitting on the desk, he is ensuring you, because you are going there with hard copies of the documents and you are telling, okay, I am this, I am that, I have this certificate, I have this. So it is basically the call of the guy sitting on the desk to decide that yes or no. But when it comes to the system itself, so definitely there is some algorithm at the back that is calculating, okay, so this guy would be eligible or no.
Yeah, I agree with you, Miss, because we experienced that in the past,
Mhm.
right? That the one that sits there would be, and that is where the bias comes from.
Mhm.
And the process of processing an application will usually take time,
Mhm.
depending on the mood of the one that processes the application. That we have to we stop doing that because it is more often than not giving the company more headache in the future when it comes to collection efficiency. What if the one that applies is the relative,
Mhm.
something like that? So
So
we
yeah, your company is only operating in Philippines or it is also outside of Philippines? You have branches
no
in other
only in the
countries.
Philippines, only in the Philippines.
Okay, so what is your plan to have a branch office in Saudi?
No, we don't have plans, Mustafa. Philippines is a big market, so we
Uh-huh.
have to focus here in the Philippines.
So
One
you don't want to grow internationally. You just want to stay there within
we
Philippines.
just we just want to stay here in the Philippines because the market is growing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
one question actually, do you actually also use third-party services like to check somebody's credit score or something like that actually, so that so somebody upload the information actually, then you can cross-check that, okay, yeah, this person actually is having a high
Yeah,
credit score actually, and things like that, yeah.
yeah, but because of the fact that some dealers will not give data, their experience will not share data.
Confidential, yeah,
So yeah,
confidentiality, yeah.
so we have to protect also our data. They might just get information of our customers, and eventually their financial capability improves. So these customers, instead of getting from us, will be their customers.
correct.
So how many agents actually do you have overall in the Philippines? Who can verify all the information? Must be a lot actually, right? You need
I have
in every
five.
region.
I have 7,000 employees all over the Philippines. We have
Mm,
5,000 field
okay,
personnel.
right, okay,
That's a
okay.
big number.
Good,
Yes.
good.
That's a big number, yeah.
Only then he could do that 45 minutes time frame. That is something really quick. In the 45 minutes,
45 minutes.
to tell
Yes.
whether he's getting or not. It's really something really good.
Thank
I
you.
Yeah.
I think
But we are improving.
yeah.
Yes,
We
that
need
is
to improve on our.
is there a
No, no,
program has to
I'm thinking if you can have a branch office in Saudi, at least I can apply for a motorcycle now.
And within 45 minutes, you'll get to know also. That's something great.
No, we don't have actually. We have very little motorcycles. In Saudi, it's not being used. Normally, there is no motorcycle at all. Only heavy bikes. Just young, the college guys are having those motorcycles. Normally, it's not a common use vehicle in Saudi Arabia. No, we don't have motorcycles here.
But
Yeah,
India
but
would be a good market because here we have a lot of two-wheelers.
Yeah.
What all the brands you mentioned, those are all are available here also, like Suzuki, Honda, Kawasaki, Bajaj, of course, and then we have TVS, which is again the local market. I mean, Indian brand.
So,
So
Mr. Vilayat Ali, you can have a ready-made business model from Mr. Arnado and you can apply it in India for sure.
his manpower is massive, 7,000.
Massive, yeah.
No, no, you can
And
But I mean,
start with one city now, even one area. So with a
even
very small
Thailand is a,
scale.
even Thailand is a big market actually, because I've seen two-wheelers everywhere in Thailand.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia.
correct.
Yeah, big
Yeah,
market.
Indonesia as well. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, even India.
Mm.
India
India,
is a
India,
big
India is a
market.
big for anything actually. Yeah.
That's
Okay,
fine.
thank you, gentlemen. I think
Thank
it
you. Yeah.
is
Thank you,
very
Mr.
Quite
helping.
late.
Thank you,
Very,
guys.
yeah, very helping,
Thank you.
and hopefully that we will be meeting again in next week. And there are a couple of things that I would like to share with you guys. We have one session on Sunday that Professor Aris will be joining us. You are most welcome, and we will be talking about private jet industry. This is private chartered flights. Mr. Husham Usman, who is technical head of Royal Jet Company, he would be presenting us what is their business in the Royal Jet, and how to develop high performance team. So this is his topic, and I think a couple of weeks ago or a month ago, we were having a discussion with Professor Aras, and he was very much interested to join us. So I have already invited him, so he would be joining us, and definitely we'll be talking about experimentation week of study, and Professor will be there. I would request everyone who will be watching this video later on YouTube to join us on Sunday. And then on Wednesday, we'll be having the similar session where Mr. Vilayat Ali will be giving us introduction that how we can use HVAC system to prevent COVID-19. So it will be something very interesting. So I will welcome everyone and thank you for the day.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
Mr.
very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank
Bye
you,
bye.
everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.